Welcome to this fifth video, which is part of Introduction to 3F Future Fintech Framework, and this is the fifth video, as I mentioned, part of the overall 8 video series. In the earlier video, we discussed about a very important framework for the fintech and digital space, which will help you create innovative and engaging customer journeys, called FDLC, Fintech Digital Life Cycle. In this fifth video, we are going to discuss the remaining two important frameworks which are part of the section 2 of 3F Future Fintech Framework, called Flare and FAM, and here is the introduction to these both. Let's begin. As you already know, we have covered FDLC, which is nothing but a 7-stage and 39 sub-stage life cycle to create engaging, innovative customer journeys. And these customers' journeys will eventually add up to features, functionalities, and then this will end up creating your product, process, or solutions. That's how the genesis is. So in a way, a customer journey is the lowest common denominator. So if you tackle the customer journey, you have probably ended up creating a very effective and engaging solution. So that was FDLC, which we covered earlier. As I mentioned, we are now going to cover Flare, which is insight into a logical and functional architecture, and FAM, which is nothing but an insight into plug and play marketplace of future. I'd mentioned this earlier, that these frameworks are tech and product agnostic and very easy to understand. So let's start with a quotation from yours truly, wherein, based on my experience, I've always realized that most digital projects encounter difficulties or even fail because there is lack of clarity in requirements, right? You know, if you don't freeze your requirement, you cannot plan your projects. There is an incremental addition to the project work, which derails, deviates, right? And it affects the collaboration, and also parallelly you need good collaboration and understanding between stakeholders. So these are two things which I always found to be the key stumbling block which you need to typically overcome, besides obviously other aspects like technology, budget, and other constraints, right? Precisely with one such a factor in mind, that I came to a conclusion that if we divide the overall fintech and digital ecosystem into some standardized layers and components, so as to address any functionalities which will emerge as part of this ecosystem, right? It's like, you know, having components which will address even functionalities which will come up in future, or help you organize your functionalities. And once you get these standardized blocks, which are more like a simplified and logical architecture, the understanding between, as I said, even a techie and even a non-techie becomes much more clear, very simple and basic, and you are able to articulate, illustrate your requirement because you think in those 14 blocks, right? So I have created a 14 block simplified and logical architecture, which will basically help you serve as a bridge between functionality and system requirement. The intention is, as I said, to basically end up helping people to articulate better with respect to their requirement elicitation in documentation or UI UX articulation, and eventually fostering collaboration internally between parties, which is both techies and non-techies. Another important thing you need to understand with respect to architecture is, in every industry, the core solution is basically getting hollowed, right? Gradually, what is happening, functionalities, as I, you know, this, it just link this with the fact that the end user is getting powerful, right? With devices getting more powerful, the need of an end user to have as much control on the systems is basically leading the new age digital ecosystem or architecture, where the core has very threadbare core functionalities, whereas you end up basically doing most of the transaction in the front end layers. So there is a lot of redefining of the core which is happening in almost every industry, including fintech. So this thought process or approach with this 14 stage architecture will help you reassemble this whenever you need it. So at any given point of time, you can keep moving all those functionalities into other relevant blocks. So it basically supports incremental addition changes in the future, and it will evolve. So to that extent, these 14 blocks are kind of future ready. So let me give you an illustration. What could be logically those blocks? So for example, core, there is a core app layer where every industry will have some core apps. There is a core support app, there are other apps, then there is a data layer, there is a front end layer, there is a personalization layer, there is a security layer. You remember we discussed about security even as part of FDLC. So the reason I highlight this is there is a content layer, and we also discussed about content in FDLC. The reason I want to highlight this is these frameworks, though they are separate frameworks and can be practiced individually separately, they are also interrelated to each other as a thought process. So all those things which I try to convey through FDLC will also be somewhere supported or realized by Flare, which is nothing but Fintech Logical Architecture. And that's how this whole concept of this 14 block logical architecture is born, and which helps you, as I said, better people to basically come out with better documentation, better UI UX articulation, better collaboration with various technical, non-technical, design, business, marketing stakeholders, right? And this will evolve and support all the likely changes which are likely to happen in the ecosystem with respect to technology, partnerships and everything. So that's where I wanted to see this as one of the core framework and a thought process. So this is the second framework as part of section 2 called Flare or Fintech Logical Architecture. There's another famous quote by Indira Gandhi which says that you cannot shake hands with a clenched fist. You need to open it up, right? And this basically leads us to the third framework, which is nothing but FAM or Fintech API Marketplace. The Fintech API Marketplace is conceptualized as an open API play or a marketplace where people can simply pick, choose, configure, test, buy and publish their own bank if you need be, right? You know, today how do you build a website, right? When you want to build a website, you go book a domain, then you book a hosting plan, then you figure out whether you want to use a WordPress or a Joomla, which are these core systems, right, related to core systems. So you figure out the core system, and then based on the core system you figure out certain templates based on your business. You can readily choose those templates. Based on the templates you will fill in the required data, content, add videos, images, and if need be, if you want to embed a payment gateway as part of a commerce in your website, you can embed that payment gateway as an API. Similarly, you can embed a social media APIs. You can embed a CAPTCHA API. You can add a form, right? So there are many things you can simply pick and choose to create. And even today, a non-techie can very easily create websites. There are lots of visual tools available. No one needs to know high-end coding, and you can simply configure and go live with your website. As I said, similar way, a Fintech API Marketplace will enable us to simply pick, choose, configure, test and buy and publish, right? The beauty of this marketplace will be it will help accelerate go-to-market and partnership, right? You remember amongst the challenges we said today, go-to-market is a challenge. So today, this challenge still remains. The only way this challenge can be mitigated is by having an open API marketplace which will accelerate go-to-market partnerships. And why I state this confidently, especially many of you who are from a technology background or who have probably used APIs, we already know that a private API marketplace exists. So many large app providers have created or curated thousands of APIs pertaining to a particular series of domain, and based on options and functionalities they have categorized it and stuff like that. So there exists already an API marketplace. So this is not some just wishful thinking. what I've done is I've just extended it as a thought process to be an open API marketplace. And to be an open API marketplace, it needs to obviously have certain capabilities and functionalities which currently are missing, and I address and talk about all those. So that's as far as the realistic nature of the fintech API marketplace getting realized. The another reason I feel this will more or less be realized very quickly in the future is there is a big category of players who can morph into this new business model, which in my opinion will emerge in a very big way as an open API marketplace. So at a gradual level, some fintechs have started doing with respect to some niches. So there are people who curated APIs on lending. There are people who created APIs on various other topics or subjects, and they made it open. I have seen some examples of something like a rapid API, which is more like an open API across a lot of these common used APIs like news, stock prices, right? If you want payment gateways, so some of them can be free, paid, all those things. So there are many features and functionalities which you'll require in this API marketplace, which is where I kind of just try to illustrate. This is something I picked from rapid API, which I said, which I just mentioned that techies will understand, but if you are a non-techie, I would always want you to go and have a look at this website called Rapid API and just open a free account and understand, navigate, and try to kind of get a flavor of what an API marketplace will look in future. And if you want to know more of how to realistically realize it, you'll obviously get to know if you become a part of my detailed workshops, or even probably in a very simple way probably get hold of my book called 3F Future Fintech Framework. So this is how Fintech API Marketplace will help you accelerate growth in the fintech and digital ecosystem. So this will become a third core and important framework to enable innovation, engagement, collaboration, and growth, right? So that's the whole genesis of these API Marketplace. And as I said, this is futuristic but realistic. Futuristic will likely happen maybe in 2-3 years, at worst maybe 1 or 2 years here and there. And there are measures being taken by some governments in Asia region, in a few other regions, where they have started creating these API marketplaces and tried to wed it with use cases, right? So it become very simple, as I said, with the same vision to basically have a pick and choose, drag and drop, and just create your own bank if need be, regulations permitting. That can be possible, right? And then obviously you need few more things which I am addressed as part of the core 3F Future Fintech Framework, which you probably will know in detail as you read the book or probably attend one of my workshops. So a quick revision of the 3 frameworks which we studied, right? The first one was FDLC, or Fintech Digital Life Cycle. This is the most important, which will help you with 7 stages and 39 sub-stages, which help you create innovative and engaging user journeys. And the intent is to iterate and reduce friction in the system, engage the customer, get higher share of wallet, improve LTV, NPS, and then profitability. So with this framework you address a lot of things: the business, the profitability, the engagement, a thought process to be better compliant, a thought process and approach to factor in security, because that helps you to build trust. So there's no framework which actually encapsulate all these things, which is what FDLC does. So this is a very important framework. The second one is Flare, which is nothing but Fintech Logical Architecture, which is an architecture with logical and functional components, around 14 components, easy to understand even for non-techies. It will basically lead to better documentation, improved understanding and collaboration in stakeholders, right? So that helps in clarity of communication, because a documentation or UI UX articulation is a mode of communication, right? And the third thing, or the third framework, is FAM, or Fintech API Marketplace, which is nothing but some insights. We just had some insights into a plug and play open API marketplace of the future. This will accelerate growth, collaboration in the fintech digital ecosystem, and partnerships. And as I said, we can simply pick, choose, drag, drop to create products and solutions, or embed it as part of an existing solutions, right? You can compare APIs and do a lot of stuffs. The beauty is these frameworks are product and tech agnostic, so irrespective of the domain you come in or the background you come in, one, as I said, it's simple to understand and you can apply to any fintech or digital product, right? So that's the beauty of all these frameworks, and that's why I call them as a framework for innovation, collaboration, engagement, and growth. So this brings us to the end of the 5th video and the section 2, wherein we covered the remaining 2 frameworks called Flare and FAM. So totally there are 3 frameworks: FDLC, Flare, and FAM, and I just leave you with those acronyms. By now you should probably know it, or you can just rewind the video and watch it. So stay with us till then. There are a lot of other innovative and important insights coming for you in the remaining videos, which will help you actually get the depth of how important, valuable, and beneficial this framework is going to be. So thank you.